हाँ भाई, नितेश क्या कह रहा है? ऑल गुड।
नो सर।
क्या हो गया भाई?
फाइनल ईयर खराब हो रहा है।
क्या खराब हो रहा है? फाइनल ईयर खराब हो रहा है? क्यों भाई? ऐसा क्यों लग रहा है?
जो भी सब्जेक्ट्स है वो ऑनलाइन मोड में पढ़ाए नहीं जा सकते, ऐसा लग रहा है।
सही लग रहा है थोड़ा थोड़ा। काफ़ी मुश्किल है ये सब चीज़ें पढ़ने में ऑनलाइन, लेकिन इस समय कुछ नहीं से तो काफ़ी अच्छा है जो हम लोग कर पा रहे हैं इस समय। इस तरीके से नहीं सोचो। जिस तरीके से आजकल तो मुझे लग रहा है और सब लोगों का हाल और बुरा है। द वन बैच जो तुम्हारे ऊपर है, आई थिंक उन लोगों का तो दे आर बेसिकली स्टैंड स्टिल। अभी किसी को, ज़्यादातर लोगों को जॉब नहीं है एंड ऑल। इस समय बहुत बुरे हालत है सब जगह। द गुड थिंग इज हम लोग काम कर पा रहे हैं कुछ कुछ, और जितना काम कर रहे हैं उतना यूज़फुल है। इतना नहीं सोचते, करते रहना है काम। कृष्ण जी कहते हैं ना, कर्म किए जा।
कर्म करने के लिए माइंड जाना पड़ेगा। विदाउट गोइंग माइंड, हाउ कैन आई डू माई प्रोजेक्ट?
या दैट इज द चैलेंज। ट्रू। होएगा, उसका भी कुछ निकलेगा इंतजाम। थोड़ा और वेट करते हैं। अब बिना लाइसेंस के तुम लोगों को क्रैक सॉफ्टवेयर से काम चला रहे हैं, वैसे ही कुछ कुछ और जुगाड़ होगा और क्या। The thing is, we have to do our best. Try, keep on trying. सब जगह परेशानी है यार। यहाँ पे बहुत प्रॉब्लम है अभी। टुडे डायरेक्टर वाज सेइंग दैट जो इंस्टीट्यूट को फंड मिला इस बार वो इतना कम है कि इट्स हार्डली एबल टू सस्टेन वन डिपार्टमेंट, जो जैसे रेगुलर फंड मिलता था। तो इट्स वेरी चैलेंजिंग बिकॉज किसी को देर इज़ नो फंड इन गवर्नमेंट इवन। वहाँ सब इकोनॉमी के चलते इट्स ऑल डाउन। तो यहाँ सब ट्रिकल डाउन तो हो गई। विल बी चैलेंजिंग। तो सभी के लिए सबका चैलेंज है। विल डू आवर बेस्ट। दैट्स ऑल वी कैन डू, राइट? तुम अभी घर पे हो? यू गाइस आर सेफ एट होम? दैट्स अ बिग बिग पॉजिटिव। यहाँ पे हालत बहुत और अलग अलग लोगों की अलग अलग है। खैर, एनीवेज, सब तो चलता ही रहेगा। कभी बैठते हैं, विल डिस्कस सम थिंग्स। इतना ज़्यादा सोचने की वैसे ज़रूरत नहीं है। परेशान नहीं हो, चीज़ें सुधरेंगी धीरे धीरे। ओके, नॉट टेकिंग मच मोर टाइम। वेलकम एवरीवन। एक काम करते हैं, वी विल बिगिन बिकॉज क्लास तो इतना बड़ा नहीं होगा। दिस क्लास विल बी अ लिटिल बिट शॉर्ट, बट एन इम्पॉर्टेंट कंसेप्ट आई वांट टू just clear before we move on to the finite element modeling or the numerical simulations part. So let's start that. So today we'll be discussing something about how we can do that probabilistic analysis basics in MATLAB. So right now we have done, you have learned about various factors like limit equilibrium method. We have learned how it is done in slide, right? We have done various methods in that too. We have also studied probabilistic analysis, correct? What we want to study today is what's the concept behind this probabilistic analysis that we discussed and how we can do it practically. So there were a few concepts like there was something we studied about random number generation, right? जिसमें we saw how in Monte Carlo simulation there were 1,000 new variables that were generated out of few things that we gave, like what is the mean and what is the distribution type and so on. So practically how it happens, right? That we'll learn today, and how we can do it in suppose Excel or MATLAB or something like that. We'll also learn how we do proper curve fitting. So we had seen a basic curve fitting exercise in Excel last time when we were discussing how histograms are made, right? Today we'll be doing that in MATLAB. So how a proper curve fitting happens, how we find out the actual accurate distribution function, and how we convert it to suppose probability distribution function. If time permits, we'll also go forward with certain example that how we can compare these probability distribution function and find out that probability of failure that we actually studied when we were doing the probabilistic analysis, right? So we will try to do that if time permits today. So let's just start with that. So you guys are aware about random number generation. So in just to remind you guys, when we do Monte Carlo simulation, so in Monte Carlo simulation, what we did was we were given some initial variables, right? Like some particular value of C, some particular value of phi, some particular value of unit weight, and so on, right? The 3 or 4 variables that we require for a simple Moore-Coulomb analysis. What we did there, we generated a normal distribution or a certain distribution, whichever we desired, and we generated a given number of variables. So in cohesion or in internal angle of friction, from one value, we could actually generate 1,000 values each, right? And on the basis of that, for each value, factor of safety was calculated, correct? And for each value, we got a different probability of failure. We got reliability index. All this we have done in previous classes. So what we will do today is we'll see more about random number generation and how it is practically done with an example. I will try to do it in Excel, or if time permits, we'll also do it in MATLAB. But let's see. So how we generate suppose a set of values that are distributed in a normal distribution, or how we generate a set of values that are distributed in a triangular fashion, or a log inverse, or so many that we discussed, right? The probability distribution function. So how we generate that will be first part. We'll also be doing as I said, MATLAB curve fitting. So today will be important for those who want to learn curve fitting and how it will be applicable. So curve fitting is an important exercise when we do certain regression analysis. It will be very useful when you do your projects, when you do your field investigations and come back with the data. So when you get that data, you have to see how it is distributed, right? And how it is distributed will be based on the accuracy of that will be based on how good the curve that is defining that distribution fits to the data, right? So we'll be checking out that how it is done in MATLAB and what are the various functions and the function availability. We'll be doing that, and using that, we will see how these can be actually plotted in MATLAB, how we can see something like critical values, or the margin of safety method that we discussed, right? So how we can actually plot it in MATLAB and how we can see relatively how what is it's working. And yeah, so we'll also be calculating, like if time permits, we'll be doing a factor of safety probability distribution calculation for sample of for a simple example. So let's start with that. So first part is random number generation. So I will use Excel for this for now, but we can do this in any of these languages that is there. But right now, why I'm demonstrating in Excel is because it is simple to understand here, and later on we can actually take up the whole algorithm and do it in uh, MATLAB or any other language that was. So, so random numbers, as I said, basically can be generated by many algorithms, right? If you give a seed value of suppose seed value, that means starting value. Seed comes by the natural concepts of the starting point, right? So if you give a seed value of 25, you can basically do a number of operations, number of divisional calculations on that, and put a number of arithmetic operations to basically find certain value that gives it a distribution between certain numbers. Suppose in this Excel, we have a function called rand that basically randomizes, gives a random value that is generated. So the useful function, I think those guys uh, who are used to with the Excel functions, they will be quite aware of this. So rand value basically we can give a seed value into that, and oh sorry, we can basically generates some number between 0 and 1. So if you have a random variable and if you give it like this, so you see if it will generate any numbers that are distributed between 0 and 1 that are randomly generated. Now this rand function, because see I didn't give a seed, so it basically had its own seed value predefined, and that's why it is called uh, a pseudo random functions. These are called pseudo random because basically if the seed value is given initially, those are called pseudo random. If the seed value is not given or a general value is taken, so those can be actually randomized. So there are different algorithms to do the randomization function, and this is one. So you can actually read about rand function, how it works and so on. But that's not the point here. Our point is to basically find out a set of values that are distributed in a particular fashion, right? So wanted to give you an idea of rand because that's what it gives, some values between 1 and 0. If you even do some operations like suppose do anything, it will basically refresh. That's a function of Excel. If you do any operation in Excel, it basically recalculates the whole its working area. So this can be resetted. It can be, but generally what happens is if you do any operation, suppose you do 25 and enter. So entering a 25 also basically resets the value and so on. So basically what it is doing is it's randomly generating values for each and every time some operations or some recalculations are done, right? So that's what is rand function. Now, our interest is not in rand function, but the values it gives. The quality of rand function is it gives values between 0 and 1. 0 and 1 is a good factor. Basically, it is providing us something called something like a probability value. If we consider 0 as no probability and 1 as a full probability or 100% probability, so a rand function will give us basically a randomly generated probability of anything to happen. Now, this will be useful because for every type of PDF or the probability distribution function, last time we studied that, for every probability distribution function, there is a cumulative distribution function also, right? Remember that? So in cumulative distribution function, based on the probability value, we can find out the actual value as well, correct? So the whole concept is that in this, actually you can go to formulas and see in where statisticals, yeah. So in which you can see there are various inverse functions, right? So there will be uh, chi-square inverse. So chi-square is also a distribution function. It is a sort of a log normal distribution function, is bounded at some ends, and its inverse basically gives us the values that we want. Similarly, we have various others distribution functions such as let me say, there is a f function that is there. F inverse we can find. There is also gamma distribution. So we have a gamma inverse function, and we have what we are looking for is a normal distribution. So this is log normal, right? And we have the normal distribution. Now, if you click here, basically it will give its required inputs. So probability it requires, a mean it requires, and a standard deviation it requires. Now, if you recall, when we were doing a limit equilibrium on this slide software, we also gave, while the probability distribution function was being discussed, we gave the base two values. We gave the mean, we gave the standard deviation, right? And on the basis of that, and we also gave what kind of distribution we want for our function. So on the basis of that, what it did was it created 1,000 values. Same thing we're doing here. The only thing will be that there will be some probability value that we have to give. So probability value basically is required for finding out the actual value of that distribution on the basis of the CDF, or the cumulative distribution function. Just if you guys don't recall, just go through last few lectures on those probability distribution function, and have a look why we calculated CDF, and how from the CDF we can actually correlate between the actual value and the probability value. So CDF is very useful in doing that for any function. So right now, let's do a normal distribution function. So if we suppose we are working for a cohesion value, let's say its mean is 50, and in kilopascal, let's say that, okay. And what we want is, we want that our variation should be somewhere around, so suppose from 30 to 70. Let's just assume that for now, that we want to generate n number of values between 30 and 70 with a mean of 50. So mean is given here, right? And our extents, or the limits for this normal distribution, can be these, right? But as you remember, for a normal distribution, there is no, it is not bounded function, right? So there will be no maximum and minimum. Maximum and minimum basically means in minus infinity and plus infinity for a normal distribution function. So how we find the basically the curvature of this? We go for the standard deviation. Now standard deviation, we also learned, just to recall, that for a normal distribution curve, 99% or 99.7% of the values fall under 3 standard deviations, right? So basically, what is the difference between the mean and the extents can be covered in 3 standard deviations. So what that actually means is, the standard deviation will be 3 times the difference between the maximum and the mean value. So in that way, if at least 3 times, not exactly 3 times, at least 3 times. So it will be less than the 3 times, because we are trying to find the maximum at 70. So it will be somewhere around below that. So let's see what comes up if we just simply do 70 minus 50 by 3. So if maximum minus mean is done, and we find out if how many, what will be the alleged like indicative standard deviation if we consider 99.7% or 100% in 3 standard deviations, it will be 6.67, somewhere around that. Basically what it means is uh, we are dividing the space into three standard deviations. However, standard deviation, if we want to be quite precise in that, it will never be 6.67. It will be less than that. So let's do one thing. Let's keep it as an integer. So rather than doing that, let's put an int function over it. So basically, it will convert whatever inside it is there into the nearest integer. The nearest lowest integer is 6. So basically it converted whatever the difference was into a lowest integer 6. So that's what actually we want. We want a mean, we want a standard deviation that we have. Now we want a probability function. So probability we will be taking from the random function, any random probability. So let's do that. So for random variable generation, let's say we want suppose 100 values. So what we do is we simply uh, start the norm inverse function. This is the norm inverse function, right? So it requires three things: the probability, the mean, and the standard deviation. So we'll give the probability, right? We give the mean. Mean is given here, right? And we give the standard deviation here. Now, one thing good in Excel is we can actually lock these values. If we don't do that, what will happen is see this, if I press enter here, it will give me some value between a randomly distributed value in the normal distribution, but this is only one. What I want to do is basically find us so many values. So I have to basically copy paste this formula all around. But if I do this next, what it will be, because it is basically moving ahead. So what I have to do is fix these values in their position. So that I can do by, I think F4. Hold on. So by putting a dollar sign on both sides, we can actually fix these values. So this is a useful step if whenever you do some formulas in Excel. Basically, if you fix these values, if you extend this formula, it will always take these values only, right? Which was not happening before. Okay. So I can now extend it for whatever values I want. Suppose I want 100 values, or yeah, let's say 100 values. So till 104, I suppose, right? Yeah. So till 104, I have generated 100 values, which are basically varying from 30 to 70. So you can see 35, we can see towards higher side as well. Some values will be there, but these are very all generated in a form of distribution in a normal distribution fashion. How we know that? Basically, we use the norm inverse function. Last time we saw how we basically divide it into a distribution function. For now, we can do it in a frequency distribution function, so that is easy. Basically, we create bins. So we are creating a bin of 5 difference, so 30, 35, 40, and so on. Because we know what are the maxima and minima, we have already generated these values. So we can take it till 70, right? Easily. And this can act as bins where basically ranges for histogram or the range distribution. And we use our I already used tool that is in data generation called histogram, right? So in that, we basically give input ranges. Input ranges are these values, the values for cohesion. The bin range, or the range in which we want to distribute, are given here. Sorry, right? We give an output range where we want our output to start from. So for that, we can click on the next cell, and we want the chart output, and that's it. So let's click that, and that's what we wanted, right? So this is how we basically generate some normally distributed function variables, and this is how in general you can roughly understand how Monte Carlo simulation random values are generated. So this also, you can see all the values that are generated are following sort of normal distribution. Similarly, we can generate all other distribution values as well. So we have different formulas for that. So for example, we have beta distribution, as I said. So, but as we discussed during studying about these functions, the shape variables for each of these functions will be different. So for normal distribution, only two shape variables were there, the mean and the standard deviation. So we had to give those. So for each of these distribution functions, the shape variables have to be given. So for beta distribution, for suppose, we have to give the value of probability, that is 1. So that can be done, but alpha, beta, A and B. So we have to know what these are and how these are related. So if we give these values, we can find the beta distribution function, and so on. So many things will be there. So all other distributions can be actually simulated in this way only. So this is one. What now happens is, this is the data that we are basically interested in now. Why? Because this is something that is giving us the distribution distribution of the frequencies. When we were talking about the conversion of this data into a distribution, we basically wanted all these 100 values to be converted into a single equation. Last time we saw how we were doing that was adding a trend line and trying to fit it as much as possible. So we could to some extent fit, but that was not very accurate, right? And even we were not even getting good R square values, or the goodness of fit was not good, right? 0.6687 in this case, so not that appreciable. Okay, so let's try doing this in MATLAB, because actually the function that will fit this is not a polynomial function. So if we see its equation, this is the equation that it is trying to fit it in. So basically it is trying to fit all this distribution into this equation that can be defined by x values. So if 45 is input, it will be something here. So actually it is not representing that function, so that's why the poor fit. But we know which function it will be fitting in, because we actually generated it from a normal distribution. So we will be doing that, and we will be seeing how better fitting can be done in some better software. So Excel is not that capable of fitting these curves. So what we'll be doing is, let's try to do something this way. Let's use this data to basically generate these values in MATLAB, and find out how the curve fitting works. Okay, so let me just check what we wanted to cover in this before moving ahead. So yeah, we can rand variables. We have a dedicated distribution generation in Excel, right? Excel example we have seen, that is good. Now, yeah, so we'll be converting by dividing area, importing in MATLAB and operations. Okay. So what we wanted right now was, what we got right now is basically a frequency distribution. Do remember that this is a frequency distribution, not a probability distribution. How we calculate a probability distribution? Right. Last time we saw that basically it is uh, equivalent to if we divide all the bin values or the range values with the total area, right? So the total area basically will be given by the total number of frequency here. So what is the number of frequency? That will be 101. Okay, that will be 101 for this case, and uh, multiplied by the distribution between these two. So difference between each of these values will be 5. So total area will be a sum of the frequencies. That will basically indicate the number of values we have into the difference between the bin values. So what we decided was these 5 as a range difference. So that will be it. So this is the basically effective area. Uh, oh, okay. So effective area below this curve, considering all these values, is 505 units right now. So in terms of units, you can say uh, basically divide these each value by this 505, right? So what it will give us, let's do this here. Divide by 505 that we calculated, and let's log this, because again as we move down we will have to keep the same value. So take it all the way, and that's it. So this now becomes the new y values for you, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. This basically had to be divided here. So the frequency had to be divided here. My mistake. Bin values will remain same because these are the x values. Now what we have to do is we have to basically change these frequencies into the probability. So probability basically ranges from 0 to 1, the cumulative probability. So because we know that maximum data will be in between, so this probability might be 30, 40 or 40, 50%, and further will be lower on the edges. So we basically have to divide the frequency by the NW, or the area that we calculated. So let's do that. Let's fix this. What happened? Oops. And I want to fix this. क्या हो रहा है? Okay. Right. So if I plot this, let's just plot this with the bin values again. If I plot it here, okay, hold on. If I plot it here, it will be similar to that, similar to the curve we obtained from the histogram, but now it is in terms of probability. So that's how things change. Okay. So this is the thing we will basically, this is the data that we require right now for finding out the probability distribution function. Now let's switch over to MATLAB and see what we can do in terms of fitting. So let's open that. Hmm. Will open. Yes. Okay. So what we want to do now is basically take the Excel data here, the X data and the Y data, and as we had done a curve fit approximate trend line here in the Excel, we will be actually fitting these values properly in MATLAB. So let's try and do that. Before that, let's see how we import the data in MATLAB. So importing the data we can do by either directly doing from something called the XLS read. So there is a function in MATLAB where we can actually we can read from Excel. So what it does is, let's try doing that. But before that, we have to select the folder in which we want to work. So we have to save this. So let's save this somewhere. Mm. Let's save this in CAM and sources tunes. Say stats demo, right? Okay, and save it. So the file name is a stats demo that we have to remember, and the sheet is sheet 1 that also we have to remember. So when we want to import this, we use a function called XLS read. XLS read. So we have to basically put the whatever values in one variable. Let's say x values. All right. X val equals to XLS read, and we want to give first the file name. So file name was what was the file name? Stats demo, stats dot xlsx, newer version, so xlsx. We have to give now the sheet name, the sheet 1, I think. Right, where is the sheet? Just to make sure we are on the same, yeah, sheet 1. And we have to give the range. So because we are giving the x value, so we are moving from M4 to M12. Just keep in mind that. So we are moving from M4 to M12. The simple importing function. What happened here? Oh, sorry, I used a double inverse, just a single one. And that's it. I think it should work. Yes, it is basically importing from. Yeah. So now you see xval, it has basically taken these values from directly our XLS file. And similarly, we can do for the yval as well. So y values you can import as XLS read. Let's use the okay XLS read. Uh, Copy paste from above because all things are same except m values. So let's copy here. And what are the values in y? Range is from P4 to P12. So let's start with this one. Let's start with the frequency distribution, right? So we'll take N4 to N12, right? So we can take it now for N. And that gives us these probability distribution, right? And it's easy to do now. You can see these variables are made. So these are basically vectors because they are holding more than one values. So row vector and column vector, you might be aware what kind of different variables are there. So these are some of them. Now these can be actually the whole exercise that we did. We can actually do it without writing a code because there are uh, the GUI or the graphic user interface is good. So we can basically click this import data button. If we do that, there will be a screen that will appear. Uh, that will ask us which file we want to open. So we can open this stats demo file because that's where we have to find our values, right? So it will basically convert the whole Excel sheet into importable data. So this is what it opens, and it will go through all the sheets, go through all the values and so on, and find out which all data can be actually imported. So we also want to import this one. This is the probability distribution, right? So let's do that. It's easy to do it here. We have to first select the range we have selected, right? P1 to P12. Uh, we have to tell that which type of vector we want or which type of variable we want. So there are options of a table import where we can import a full table. We can import column vector, we can have a matrix, we can have a string, or we can have a cell. So rather than doing any other thing, because we are aware that it is a column vector, so let's click that. And we can give it a name here. On the top of the column, we can give an import name here. So let's say yval prob, right? Y value of probability. And once we do that, we can actually just start with this import. And that's it. That's how easily it can be done. So once done, it will be showing the following variables was imported, and it is showing the size of it also 9 by 1. Now, if you minimize that and go back, you can see actually this variable is made, and we have these values as well. So if you want to see, you can actually see by y prop. It shows the which are the values that are imported. So anyways, we can do. It's important to know which functions are there because when you write codes, you will have to do in terms of these. But if you are doing it manually separately for each of the each type of PDF or each type of analysis, if you are doing separately, it's well and good if you do by the pre-existing buttons or the graphic interface that is there. Okay, so we are done with the importing. Now, once done importing, basically this is used as a temporary workplace. If you want to save, you can save. Let's take other things that we want to judge right now. We want to basically fit these values in a curve. So the important part of an important application of MATLAB is curve fitting or the regression analysis. To give you an idea, regression analysis is basically the same thing that we are doing. Any sort of converting any sort of data into certain equation that represents that data for any type of X value or something input values. That is termed as regression analysis. And curve fitting is the simplest form of regression analysis. However, the curve fitting application that MATLAB has, it's quite rigorous and easy to use. It is if you go into the apps and press this button, the app of curve fitting will open. So curve fitting app looks like this. Basically, we can define what type of curve fitting we want to do to fit. Now we can say maybe try one, right? And we have to give it X values and Y values. So when we click the drop down menu, we have these X values and the Y values itself. So we can do that. So if we select the Y values, it will basically plot it for us. The values will be plotted and dotted, and it will try to fit some curve here, any curve which it is already on. So now right now polynomial was on. So it has tried to fit this P1x plus P2. The same thing we were doing, right, in two variables. So we tried in the Excel as Px in terms of the 2 power variable. So a similar experience we are having here. Even the R square value is better for here, but not that good. So what we can do is we actually know what kind of distribution it is. It is a normal distribution, and we heard that apart from saying normal distribution, it is also called Gaussian distribution. So we have a Gaussian equation here. Gaussian equation basically is in terms of the same normal distribution that we had, and replacing 1 by 2 pi standard deviation by A1, and B1 is replaced by the mean, and C1 is replaced by the standard deviation that was there or similar to that. So if you see here, now it has tried to fit this equation in here, and the variables or the constant, the multiplication factors of each, the A1, the B1, and the C1, it has tried to find out by fitting. Now you see how different it was from the previous one. The R square value that we are getting right now is almost more than 0.97. So that's as compared to the 0.67 or the 0.7 that we were getting in the polynomial, it's quite better. So because we know our distribution was like that, so it is quite fitting. In many cases, we don't find that. There are so for doing that, there are many other options. In here, there are already so many types of fits, as well as further increments of that. So suppose we have Gaussian. So even in Gaussian, we can have certain sets of data that have a complex distribution. So we have complex Gaussian where multiple Gaussian variables are there. So we can have 2 Gaussian fits or 3 Gaussian fits and so on. However, it's not applicable for us because we just simply want a simple distribution function. If we go for 2, there is not much improvement. How I know there is not much improvement if I increase a full set of new Gaussian is, see, on the first one, we had R square of 0.9716. On the second one, we have 0.9732. So in that sense, yes, the R square is better. So it may be meaning that the addition of this whole term is actually increasing the fit. However, you do see what are the variables that are coming. So if you see A2, that is the standard deviation of the second part of it, 1 by 2 pi standard deviation, it is minus 2809. Far away in that sense. And also the other values, apart from that, there is something called the adjusted R square. If you see on the bottom or you see here, and the goodness of fit. So this is a variable that basically tells us what is the impact of additional variables in the curve fitting. So let me give you an idea. If there is 1, so you can see adjusted R square is 0.96. So the adjusted R square that is calculated by certain formula based on how many variables are there and based on the R square value. So R square value adjusted with the number of coefficients or the variables that are added. So right now there were 3. So per unit there are some calculations and we get 0.9621. As soon as we add another 3, basically per unit adjusted R square reduces. Now you see it is 0.9287. So adjusted R square is a good indicator of how good a fit is, and if there is any improvement in terms of additional variables. So in that way, we can actually discard this double fitting. Even after we know that there is a slight increase in the R square value, we understand that the significance of that increase is not much as compared to the number of coefficients that we are adding. So in these kind of analysis, we have to take care of this as well. So this is one representative equation that will define our data. In other types of curve fitting is also possible. If we don't find any of what we want to do, we can actually define our own equation. So in terms of y equals to x, we can actually define our own set of equation, and that will basically work for us in terms of fitting. If you want to see, I can actually just copy this Gaussian equation and try to fit in my custom equation if I want to do that. Didn't work or what? Or maybe, oh, exponential function, that doesn't work here. Okay. So like mx plus c, a linear function. What's happening? Exponential function works. Yeah, so some sort of we can have custom equations here as well. So when I used to fit in my curve fitting, I used to give polynomial equations here. Even though polynomial equations will be here, I used to give higher order polynomial equations here. So that also we can easily fit. The good thing is the data of fitting that we obtained from here. So I think I will have to restrict today's lecture in fitting only, but still the type of data that we are getting is based on what kind of goodness of fit is there, and on the basis of that, as some basis should be there, right, to say that okay, this fitting is perfect. So on the basis of these R square and adjusted R square values, we can finally say that with the values of these coefficients, we have this as the closest fitting equation. So noting down these variables is important. So when we use these variables, we can actually predict the further values inside these this fitted curve. So this will be fitting for our the frequency distribution. If we want to do it for the probability distribution, same thing, because we have already imported for probability data, and this will be for the probability distribution function. So for our cohesion values, all the data we gave, right, our curve fitting parameters can be directly taken from here, our curve fitting work that we did. Oops. Yeah. So these are the values for A1, B1, and C1, and this is the equation that we can actually note down for the normal distribution. In next class, actually, I didn't want to extend till next class for this, but I think we have to. In next class, what we will be seeing is how these probability distributions can be combined and plotted in MATLAB so as to understand the probability analysis that that we did for the factor of safety calculations in limit equilibrium method. So let's just paste that equation, and we also get that data, uh, the variables. So now you will also see there is there are some values in brackets. So these values are called 90 the confidence intervals. So basically, uh, if it says that I have 95% confidence that my data will be inside these values, the A1 will always be inside these values. So 95% chance is there, right? SA for B1 there is this, so and C1. So these are basically curve fitting parameters. When if we go dive into deeper how we do a curve fitting, how we do a regression analysis and all, we can actually find out what are the confidence intervals. These are statistical tools that basically gives us how we basically do a good curve fitting in that ways. So if you want to read more about it, do have a look about the confidence intervals, about how the regression analysis is done, and so on. But we won't be directly dealing with it in this class because that's a subject for a full statistics course. So for now, what we are interested in is to find how we do curve fitting in this using these better softwares and how it is useful for our purpose. So we have these values A1, B1, and C1. We can extract those by simply converting it into our data. Let's separate them by space and click next and finish. So we have A1, B1, and C1 as 0.0627, 51.9, and 9.129. All right, right. So what we can do with this data, we can actually use this data to do further calculations that we'll be talking about tomorrow. We'll be defining some equations. We'll be defining equations in MATLAB. So how we can basically make some sort of y equals to fx functions, where if we give x values, we can generate y. How we do that, and how we calculate full equations of factor of safety or something like that. We'll try to do that in the first half of tomorrow's lecture. In second half, I actually want to start the finite element modeling. So that is an important part that we'll try to cover up. Next few classes of computer applications will be focused on finite element modeling, where we will be using phase software and ANSYS software generally, and we'll be discussing about other softwares as well. We'll be seeing about what are the concepts involved in finite element modeling, how it is different from other methods, and where is its applicability, and also how we can use it in field applications like slope stability analysis, like stress analysis, or in fluid dynamics and so on. So there are many applications of finite element modeling, much more versatile method than limit equilibrium method, which is quite restricted, and also much more applicable for any work that we do in terms of simulation. So we'll be seeing that in our next classes. We'll stop here. If anyone has any questions, we can have it before closing for today. And yes, in the lab class on Thursday, we will be discussing about any problems that you faced in the tutorials for LIM on that slide software. So do go through those tutorials. do cover those tutorials in 2-3 days that you have. And if anyone has any problems, anything new that we can do or anything there, so we'll be covering that up in computer applications lab when on Thursday. Okay, so that's it from me for today. I'm sorry the last class in Rockslow couldn't happen. There was a meeting that was going on, and we had to participate, everyone. It went on till 2 o'clock. So yeah, so we'll take the next RST class on anyways Thursday. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for coming again. Any questions are welcome. Thank you.